To the silent warriors, the late night strugglers, the ones who sit alone in rooms with dreams too loud to silence and doubts too cold to escape, this is for you. To the misunderstood, the underestimated, the ones they laughed at, ignored, doubted, or warned wouldn't make it, this is yours. This is for every soul who swallowed pain with a grin, who smiled while bleeding, who kept going when every part of them wanted to stop. You are not broken, you are forged, and tonight, you do not rise with noise. You rise with silence that demands attention, because you didn't need to win loudly. You just needed them to watch. They thought the volume of your victory would define your worth, that your moment would come with confetti, with applause, with a roaring crowd. But you knew something they didn't. Real power doesn't scream. Real triumph moves in shadows, building itself in the places no one looks. You didn't want a parade. You wanted their silence. You wanted their faces when they realized you made it. You wanted every eye to freeze in that moment, unable to turn away. That was the win. That stillness, that shock, that awe. You didn't need their cheers. You needed their attention. While they laughed, you built. While they scrolled, you sacrificed. While they mocked your silence, you carved out a presence too loud for words. You didn't argue. You didn't plead. You didn't prove. You let them sit in their comfort, in their mockery, in their arrogance. And you chose the long road, the dark road, the lonely one. And now they see it. They all see it. They can't look away. Every eye stayed frozen because the person they ignored became the force they can't deny. You were never meant to be loud, not in a world addicted to noise. You were meant to be a whisper that shakes the bones of giants. You were meant to be that quiet, terrifying truth, the kind that creeps up the spine in the dark, the kind they feel before they hear. They spent so long watching others who shouted, others who flaunted, others who blazed across their screens for attention. But you were patient. You knew the difference between fame and respect, between trending and timeless, between being seen and being remembered. Let them talk. Let them mock. Let them doubt. That's the soundtrack of the untested, the unproven. While they wasted time, you stacked hours like bricks. You didn't post about it. You didn't beg for validation. You worked quietly, obsessively. You sacrificed comfort for clarity. You gave up noise for presence. You became something they'll study when the smoke clears and the likes fade. You didn't chase them. You made them look. And now, every eye stayed frozen. You're not here for revenge, not the childish kind. Number, your victory is mature, measured, ruthless in its precision, not because you hate them, but because you love what you're building too much to break focus. You understand now. The loudest in the room is often the weakest. The one moving in silence is usually the most dangerous. You are the storm they never saw coming. And storms don't ask for permission. They don't beg for attention. They arrive, and they change everything. This world teaches you to shout, but legends are written in whispers. Icons are sculpted in silence. The greatest moments in history didn't start with noise. They started in darkness, in solitude, with trembling hands and burning hearts. So if you're still alone, still struggling, still unheard, good. That's the forge. That's where greatness is molded. Let them sleep. Let them doubt. Let them scroll past you, because one day they won't scroll. They'll stop. Their breath will catch. Their eyes will lock, and they won't be able to look away. You've been surviving in the shadows for too long. You've been humble. You've been quiet. You've been patient. But now it's time. Not to scream, not to announce, but to arrive, fully powerfully, without explanation, without permission. You won't have to say a word, because they'll feel it, in the air, in their bones, in the silence that follows your entrance. Every eye will freeze, every thought will pause, because they'll know something's changed. You've changed. They think silence is weakness, but you turned silence into a weapon, into a cathedral where your will became steel, into a battlefield where your demons bled and begged. You fought wars they'll never understand, not the kind with flags or fists, the kind inside, the wars of self-doubt, fear, imposter syndrome, trauma, failure, and you won. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. You built yourself in secret, and that's terrifying, because now they're facing someone who didn't just chase success, you became it. And if you're still climbing, good. Let them think you're quiet. Let them underestimate you. Let them look the other way. Because when you rise, not if, when, it will be seismic. And they'll feel it before they see it. The ground will shift. The air will change. You won't have to demand their respect. You'll command it. Without a sound, because some victories echo louder in silence than any cheer could ever match. And when they see you, truly see you, every eye will stay frozen. They won't understand what it took. They'll see the results, the sharp edges of your success, the aura that bends the room around you. But they won't see the nights you wept in silence, the mornings you rose with nothing but grit in your chest and demons on your back. They won't see the internal battles, the moments when quitting felt easier than breathing. They won't see the doors slammed in your face, the betrayal that burned your trust, the hunger that taught you to be your own savior. But they'll see you now, and that's enough. You didn't need applause. You needed a moment of silence so loud it echoed in their chests. That's the win. And when they watch you now, they'll try to rewrite the story. They'll say they always knew, that they supported you, that they saw the potential. Let them. Smile, nod, keep walking. Because the truth is sacred, and you don't need to waste it on those who weren't there when you were nothing but bones, sweat, and ambition. You remember the silence, the rejections, the long talks with yourself just to get out of bed. You remember the wait, and that memory, that's your edge, that's your crown. Not the gold, not the recognition, but the fire that never went out, even when no one else saw it. You've become fluent in pain, and with that fluency came clarity. You no longer react. You move with intent. You don't chase recognition. You draw it in like gravity, and the ones who used to laugh at your discipline now study it like scripture. Because you didn't just build a life, you built a presence, something undeniable, something magnetic, and it was born in darkness, fed in discipline, forged in solitude. No shortcuts, no cheat codes, just relentless repetition of truth. You don't need to be liked. That was the old you, the one who needed validation to feel real. You've outgrown that. Now you understand the truth. Being watched is more powerful than being cheered for, because when they cheer, they move on. But when they freeze, when they stare, that's when they remember. That's when you burn into the fabric of their minds. You didn't show up to be part of the noise. You showed up to become the silence that follows it. They mistook your quiet for weakness, mistook your humility for absence. But you were never missing. You were studying, training, transforming, like a blade in the fire, like a shadow becoming a storm. And now, they don't know how to deal with you. You don't fit their boxes anymore. You don't play by the rules they wrote. You exist beyond their limits because you built your own. And it's terrifying, not because you're angry, but because you're calm, because they realized they never really knew what you were capable of. Until now. You don't need to explain your worth. That's not your job anymore. You've outgrown those conversations. You let your presence speak. You let the room change when you enter. Let their eyes lock. Let their lips tremble. Because what you are cannot be ignored. And it's not because you screamed the loudest. It's because you became something so rare, so focused, so unshakable, that silence became your weapon. And now they watch, frozen, humbled, awakened. You're not here to beg, not here to convince. That was never the goal. The goal was the moment they realized, too late, that they should have paid attention, that you weren't wasting time, that your silence wasn't absence. It was preparation. Every eye stayed frozen, not because you demanded it, but because they felt it. That weight, that history, that unbreakable will that radiates without a single word. You didn't need to win in public. You just needed to become undeniable. Let them gossip. Let them spin their stories. Meanwhile, you're building empires out of old scars. You're turning past failures into stepping stones, each one soaked in lessons they'll never learn. They don't get to write your story. They just get to watch the chapters unfold, in silence, in awe, in fear maybe. Because the most terrifying thing in the world isn't someone loud, it's someone still. Someone who doesn't need to talk to be felt. You've reached the place where discipline becomes art, where every move is intentional, every breath controlled. You're not proving anymore, you're demonstrating. You've trained too long, bled too much, given too deeply to ever settle for surface level praise. You're here to create legacy, to leave marks, not just in the world, but in the minds of everyone who ever doubted. They won't forget you. Not because you made noise, but because you changed the atmosphere. This is the moment. You stand now, not because someone handed you a stage, but because you built it, brick by brick, broken finger by broken finger. You didn't wait for an audience. You became the act they couldn't look away from. And now, the spotlight doesn't shine on you. It follows you, because that's what happens when you win in the shadows. When you work so obsessively, so consistently, that even the universe starts taking notes. You're not for everyone, and that's your power. You were never meant to be universally accepted. You were meant to polarize, to disrupt, to shake the sleep out of the eyes watching you. Your presence is a wake-up call, and some will run from it. Some will hate you for it. But all of them, every single one, will see you. And that's enough. Not because you wanted them to clap, but because you knew that one day, when the work was done, they would stop, breathe, stare, and say, "How the hell did we miss this?" You don't ask for permission anymore. You don't seek understanding. You are past that now. You've become something more than a person trying to succeed. You've become a force. And when a force moves, it doesn't check if others are ready. It just happens. It arrives, like a storm, like a reckoning. And you are the quiet before that storm, the breath held in 1,000 lungs, the final silence before the thunder breaks. You don't need to shout, because the silence you carry is heavier than 1,000 screams. They won't be able to explain it. They'll try, of course. Try to trace your success back to something they can understand. They got lucky. They changed. They just had connections. But they'll never speak the truth, that it was you, that it was blood, sacrifice, insane focus, that while they were watching each other, you were watching everything, that you noticed patterns they missed, that you learned to move when they stalled, that your silence wasn't just absence, it was evolution. And now, they feel it in their chest every time you move. Every room you walk into now feels different. You don't carry an ego. You carry presence. The kind of presence that bends the air, makes people sit straighter, makes eyes follow you without knowing why. It's not arrogance, it's aura. Born from fire, from loss, from discipline, from hours no one else saw. You paid for this silence with pain, and it paid you back in power. There's a calm in you now, a deadly calm, the kind of calm that comes from surviving yourself. You outlived your self-doubt. You buried your excuses. You killed the weaker versions of you just to keep climbing. And now, you stand not on a mountain, but on the graves of every version of you that couldn't finish, that couldn't handle the pain, that couldn't carry the silence. That's why they can't look away, because you're not just a person, you're proof. Proof that it's possible to suffer and still shine, to be broken and still rise, to be silent and still unstoppable. You became the story they'll tell to people like you, the underdogs, the unseen, the underestimated. They'll say your name like a legend, not because you were loud, but because you were relentless. And in this loud, fake world, that is terrifying, because the truth always is. The world is built on distraction, on noise, on pretending. You didn't join that game, you beat it. By being real, by building quietly, by understanding that visibility without substance is just a house of cards in a windstorm. But you built a fortress. No one saw it go up, but they see it now, they feel it now, and they'll never forget it. Every eye stayed frozen, not just because of what you did, but because of what you are. You represent what's possible, and that's what scares them. You showed them that noise isn't needed, that talent without discipline dies, that pain can be power, that silence can be strategy. And now, every room you walk into remembers that. You don't even have to speak. You just exist, and that's enough. You don't move to prove anymore. You move to build. Every step is calculated. Every hour is sacred. You're not seeking applause. You're building something timeless, something that will stand long after the loud ones fade. Because you've realized the game isn't about being seen for a moment. It's about being remembered forever. So let them stare. Let them freeze. Let them feel that chill crawl up their spine when they realize who you are and who you've become. Let their mouths dry. Let their plans stutter. Because this isn't about vengeance. This isn't about proving them wrong. This is about proving you right. That inner voice, the one that whispered when everyone else shouted, the one that believed in you when no one else did, that voice was right. And now, the world is forced to listen to a voice they once ignored. You didn't need to crush them. You didn't need to scream at them. You didn't need to call them out. You just needed to walk past them, quietly, powerfully, unbothered. You just needed them to see it, the transformation, the growth, the brutal rebirth. You just needed them to feel it, and they do. Every eye, every heart, every old critic, every fake friend, every passive observer, they all feel it now, not because you rubbed it in, but because you became it. You've reached the level where their words don't touch you. You are not reactive anymore. You are intentional, and that's terrifying to people who are still driven by emotion, by insecurity, by comparison. You don't compare, you calculate, you conserve, you execute, and the results are deafening in their silence. You don't chase trends, you become timeless, and they feel that way even if they can't name it. The throne you built wasn't given to you. It didn't come with applause, it came with bruises, with sacrifice, with loneliness. With rage, you were alchemized into focus. You didn't rise with a spotlight, You dragged yourself through hell and lit your own fire. And now, that fire lives in your eyes, and they can't stop staring. And in that fire, they see something they've never seen before. Truth. Unfiltered. Undeniable. You didn't fake your way here. You bled for it. Every scar tells a story. Every silence a lesson. Every lonely night a page in the gospel of your grind. And now, they have no choice. They must watch, frozen, awed, ashamed that they ever doubted. But you don't hate them. You thank them. Because they made you sharper, harder, colder, focused. You learned how to move in darkness, how to operate without applause, how to fight without fanfare. And now, you fight not with noise, but with presence. A presence so cold, so commanding, so final, that it doesn't need to say a word. It just is. You didn't come to compete. You came to conquer. Quietly, silently, strategically. And every move you make now is a page in a story they can't stop reading. They're watching, even if they never admit it. They refresh your page. They study your steps. They mimic your methods, and they'll never say it out loud. But you own their focus. You live in their mind, rent-free, because you didn't just win. You became the standard. So now, what's next? You keep moving, without fanfare, without warning. You evolve, you build, you lead, quietly. Because your power is not in being seen. It's in being unavoidable, in being the story they whisper about, the name that makes people sit up straighter, the force they can't deny. You didn't win loudly. You just made sure they were watching. And now, every eye stayed frozen. And now we arrive at the quietest part of the storm, the place where breath holds and time slows, where you finally realize this was never about the noise. It was never about making them clap. It was never about revenge. It was never about being seen just to say you were. This entire journey, the sleepless nights, the brutal silences, the ignored messages, the lonely victories, it was about becoming, about transforming into something unshakable, something untouchable, something that didn't need to shout because it radiated power. You didn't rise to prove anyone wrong. You rose to prove to yourself that your silence had weight, that your discipline had purpose, that your solitude was sacred. And now, the world knows it too. Because when you finally walked through that door, you didn't need to speak. The room shifted, the air changed, and for once, they all stopped. The scrolls paused, the whispers died, the noise faded, and in that moment of suspended breath, every eye stayed frozen, because your presence said everything. It said, I didn't break, I built. I didn't vanish, I evolved. I didn't beg, I became. You are not a product of noise. You are a force forged in silence. And now, you are the silence they fear, the one they respect, the one they cannot ignore. So don't look back. Don't slow down. Don't dilute yourself to fit in rooms that were never built to hold your fire. Walk forward, head high, heart steady, eyes sharp, not to be seen, but to be remembered. Because you didn't need to win loudly. You just needed them to watch, and they will, forever.